You know that if you're seeing me on the intro video, it means that I'm not preaching today. But one of the things I love so much about our Crossroads family is that it doesn't really matter who the talking head up at the front of the stage is. You come here to Crossroads and are part of this family because you know no matter who's up there, God's word is going to be open and the Spirit of God is going to speak to us from God's revealed word right into our hearts, exactly what we need to hear. But listen, we do like the talking heads too, don't we? And today's talking head really needs no introduction. He's really not a talking head. He's our founding pastor, Pastor Bill Ritchie. You know him, you love him. If you don't know him, I'm here to tell you, you will love him. So you guys know we like to do this. Let's make an obnoxiously loud, joyful noise to welcome him. Let's go for it. Ready? Go.
I tell you, I don't know what I'm going to do with you guys. Figure something out. You know, I heard something yesterday that I can't even hardly believe. It was on some newscast, and that is that they've changed the words in Scrabble. Any of you heard that? I mean, come on. How am I going to keep up? Emoji is in there, and ob, and twerk, and all kinds of really important words. But a lot of them obviously virtually all of them come out of social media. And the idea is that makes a level playing field for everybody. So if some younger person is playing against an old geese like me, I can't trash him quite as easily because he won't know normal words. Words. Words are really, really important things, aren't they? I've thought a lot about words. In fact, and I'll get to this maybe in a bit, but I think more about them in some ways all the time. Words mean things, and they do something and they go someplace. It's amazing to me to see how language in our culture has disintegrated across the years. And I don't know what else to call it. You know, the profanity that we would have used as high school guys in our locker room, and you never would have used outside the locker room, you're going to hear 12-year-old girls saying in the middle of the van mall. I mean, stuff that has just stopped me in my tracks, and I've turned around and said, that word came out of that little girl? Are you kidding me? And wearing them on their shirts and all the rest. And when language, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about swearing and so forth. Are you going to go to hell if you say hell or something that, forget all that nonsense. The truth of the matter is, all it really shows is that you've got an incredibly small vocabulary because you default to one or two or three short little words that sort of cover the waterfront for everything, and they mean absolutely nothing in reality. And so you just say, man, oh man. And words are kind of funny things. I remember I think I've told you this before. How many of you are parents? A lot of you are parents. Okay, remember what it was like when you were getting ready to have your first child. And we were getting ready to have our first child. And I remember one day just being struck with this overwhelming fear, truly. And the fear was, what if our kid can't talk? Wow, what are we going to do? What if we aren't able to train him how to talk? Well, the truth of the matter is he was born and sort of coming out of the chute. He was instructing the doctors as to what they could have done differently. And, it's like God said, talk. I'll show you talk. But at the time, it seemed like such a big deal, talking. And it seems like most of us learn how to talk and all the rest. But then words start to be used to manipulate. Words start to be used to hurt. Words start to be used to obfuscate. Words start to be used for all kinds of reasons that they really weren't meant to be used for at all. Words. One time, one of my grandkids, when he was very little, was in the back seat. Obviously, they always are, right? And his mom, they were driving around doing errands, and he was just a chatterbox, just talking like a magpie. Couldn't be quiet. Finally, she just was done with this. She'd been hearing just all this blather going on for, 20 minutes. She finally said, honey, you're going to have to be quiet now, totally quiet, until we get home. And then we're going to be home for about 10 minutes. And there was just this, but finally it just said, but Mommy, I have so many words. Words, they just want to get out there. Open your Bibles with me to Proverbs 24, will you? An incredibly important thing that God says to us here, 24th verse. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. Boy, that's a beautiful statement. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. Say that with me. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. What I want to do over the next few minutes is just kind of consider exactly what it is that God is saying to us here, because there's some super important stuff for us to understand. Okay, a few things that we want to think about. First of all, good words do good things. Good words do good things. Say that. Good words do good things. Close your eyes. Now say it one more time. Good words do good things. I want you to etch that into your mind. I want you to etch that into your hearts, that good words do good things. Now, when I'm talking about, speaking good words, I'm not talking about the conversation between the husband and wife. It was an evening, and they're getting ready to go out, and she was in front of this mirror. Nothing was right as far as she was concerned, full-length mirror, and she's looking at herself, and she just has this horribly downcast look on her face, and she said, oh, man, I just can't believe this. I just can't believe how I'm looking at my mother. She said, good night. Look at all these wrinkles I have, and my hair is all gray, and I got bat wings, and my legs are just so fat, and I'm so frumpy, and oh, can you just say something positive about me? I mean, guys, this is a setup. I'm just telling you. Always a setup. Just don't go there. You're just kind of, you're done no matter what you say. And he was scrambling. Boy, he was going to say that. He said, well, honey, your eyesight's still real good. What can I say? Good words do good things. That may not have been that great of a word. You know, what Solomon said so many years ago, however, is so true. Pleasant words are like honeycomb. Pleasant words. Who in the world doesn't like pleasant words? Pleasant is a word we use very much anymore, is it? It's a great word. It describes something delightful. It describes something nice. It describes something good. It describes something, in this case, uplifting. And who in the world doesn't like to hear pleasant words? You know, when I was a kid growing up, there was an old song that you'd hear sung, "And never was heard a discouraging word." Well, we don't want to hear discouraging words. We want to hear encouraging words, right? All of us. And when somebody says something nice to us, pleasant to us, or about us, it just kind of changes our whole attitude, doesn't it? It makes at least the next part of the day better than it was. Pleasant words, they're really good things. And what he says here is, when he says pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones, that is true both physiologically and spiritually, emotionally. Both sides of that are true. I don't think that the words that he chose to use here were random. I think he said them for a reason. You know, if you want to look at the physiological sense, just think about honeycomb. He didn't pick that out of the air when he said pleasant words are like honeycomb. In fact, when you read through the Old Testament, I have read through the Bible every year for decades and decades, and I was just, as I've been plowing through, you know, the Chronicles and the Kings and so forth, as you go through all these kings, you find a variety of references to honey. And there is a reason for that, and I'm sure that's why Solomon used this term. We have some beekeepers in the church, actually more than one set of beekeepers in the church. And they take their hives all around, and whether it's with the almonds in California or various different kinds of trees that they have, and we've talked about this from time to time. Honey and honeycombs are really important on a lot of levels. A honeycomb actually has 4 different parts of it. Are you aware of all that? You know, with a honeycomb, for one thing, there is the honey. And surely most all of you are aware of the beneficial effects of honey itself. I mean, how many of you have ever, when you had a sore throat, had honey with lemon? Anybody? Yeah, half, 3/4 of the people in here have. We know that there are some medicinal effects of honey that are helpful for us, and so that's one of the reasons we go there. And then, of course, honey has in it bee pollen. And bee pollen has all kinds of important things that are a part of it. 96 different nutrients, as a matter of fact. And when you take it, it has a way of just sort of livening you up. I don't know if you remember this, but one time when Jonathan, the son of Saul, was involved in battle, he was out and he'd been doing battle the whole day, and he was tired and so forth, exhausted, and he came upon honeycomb, and he dipped his spear, it says, into that honeycomb and took some of the honeycomb, and immediately his countenance brightened. It's just the effect of the chemicals themselves. It has a very positive effect on us. And then there is this substance called propolis that is also a part of the honeycomb. And that stuff is just amazing. That's that waxy resin that the bees use in the honeycomb itself. And again, the nutrients from that are anti-inflammatories. They tend to help to reduce infections. All kinds of positive things come from that. And then the royal jelly, again, it's just stacked up with nutrients. And so you realize when he says here that pleasant words are like a honeycomb, they are health to the body. He's not kidding. And he's saying that there is a direct relationship between here. He's also saying that it is sweetness to the soul, that it's going to go down deep into our inner beings and do something very positive for us. I want to call your attention to a few scriptures that talk about this. Look at, for instance, Proverbs 12:25. It says, anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. You know what it's like when you're stressed out. You're just kind of down in the dumps. You're not feeling good about anything, but wow, somebody has something to pick up your spirits that has a very positive effect. Thank you very much. That's a sweet word to my soul right there. Proverbs 15:4. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life. Or Proverbs 15:23. A man has joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good it is. And then there is my all-time favorite, Proverbs 25:11. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. I love that image. and to think that that's how powerful the words that we speak can be. It's that beneficial in the lives of other people. And we all know, because we've all had the experience of what it's like to have somebody who is important to us say something positive to us. I'll bet you, if I were to go around the room, that there are a number of you who can remember right now something that positive that a teacher said to you when you were in the 5th grade or the 7th grade, or a coach or a friend. I remember looking at Bill. I remember a positive word that a coach said to you that completely revolutionized your life. Talk about powerful. Wow. A word to a kid who had just kind of lost his way and had given up on everything. But boy, this coach hadn't given up, and he was going to make sure that you understood that, and he did it verbally. That very positive word can absolutely and totally change lives. And they don't have to be big words. You know, several years ago, we did a study here with a group of guys. We had several hundred guys, and we did this study for several months, and it was oriented toward fathers and their kids, but particularly towards fathers. And one of the things that we learned from so many people is so many guys never had a dad, especially, say to them, "I'm proud of you." Just that simple. I'm proud of you. And so they've spent their whole lives trying to somehow measure up to this moving target. They don't even know what it is, for lack of one little statement. I'm proud of you. And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be a big thing. I love you. Man, you look terrific today. Wow. It could be something as simple, I am so sorry. Would you forgive me? Thank you so much for that. I mean, simple, simple, simple words, but they're positive words. And those positive words have a huge effect on the lives of the people to whom they are spoken. We all like to hear them. I love what Paul says in Colossians 4 when he says, "Let your speech always be with grace." And so do we want that. The things that we say are going to be gracious, and therefore the things we say are going to grace the people to whom we say them. Good words do good things. Good words do good things. Say that with me one more time. Good words do good things. Now, the opposite is also true. Bad words do bad things. Say that with me. Bad words do bad things. Why in the world does he keep having us say those things? Because I want you to get them. I want them to go down deep into your inner person. Bad words do bad things. You know, if you go just a few verses down here in Proverbs 16 to the 27th verse, it says, "An ungodly man digs up evil, and it is on his lips like a burning fire." Boy, that is so true. You know, whoever said that statement, "Sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never harm us." I think that guy was on crack. I mean, what could he possibly have been thinking? Words can harm us. They can devastate us. They can push us over the edge. I read a different way of saying that. Sticks and stones break only bones, and bones they heal real fast. But words destroy and kill the soul till nothing's left at last. And man, that is true. I don't care what word you want to use, bad, nasty, cutting, hurtful, disrespectful, ungracious, negative, awful, crude. These words are the exact opposite of blessing. They're really cursing. And therefore, bad words simply cannot be the heart of God. They are antithetical with that. You know, Solomon says in the 18th chapter here of Proverbs, in the 21st verse, something in a different way that James would come to elaborate on much, much later, but that is, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Words can be unbelievably destructive, whether they are spoken in a fit of anger or rage or frustration or whatever it is that causes us to go there and say that the things that we say. I have a friend, pastor friend, who is older than I, if you can believe that, and he told me a story many years ago that I have never forgotten. We were just chatting about worship one day and singing songs to the Lord and all this kind of stuff. And he said, I don't sing. I just don't go there. And I said, what? I mean, how can you be a pastor and not sing? How can you be alive and not sing? But, you know, so I wanted to drill down on that. Well, what's up with that? Why is that the case? He said, well, you know, when I was a little guy and growing up in school, and some of you will remember back in the day when we were going to have like a Christmas program or a end of school year program or something, every class would prepare a song to sing at a school assembly. That's just what you did. And your teacher would rehearse your class and your song, and you'd have that song down, and then you'd go out and get on the risers or whatever and sing your song, and then you would go out. So his class had worked on this song. Finally, they had their dress rehearsal the day before the big performance. And right before they started to sing their song, so that everybody in the class could hear, the teacher came right up beside my pastor friend, who was a little guy then, and said to him, now, son, when we start to sing, I just want you to move your lips, but do not sing, because you can't carry a tune in a bucket. The class just laughed hysterically. He said he wanted to cry, but he was a guy and he wasn't going to do that. His cheeks turned bright red. He was unbelievably embarrassed, mortified, and he never sang again. Now, I am certain if you could find that teacher, or as the case would be, dig her up today, I guess. If you could find that teacher, I'm sure she didn't intend to hurt him. I'm certainly sure that she didn't intend to sort of twist his life for the rest of his days. I'm sure she didn't have any idea like that on her mind. She probably thought it was cute, thought it was funny, thought he'd think it was funny, everybody else, and we'd all agree, and yeah, you can't carry a tune in a bucket, ha, 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 we all know that. But she didn't even think about what she was saying, and that's the problem, isn't it? Don't you wish sometimes that the way we spoke was like in cartoons where they have those sound bubbles, you know, and when it came out of your mouth, you could just suck it back in. Because once it gets out there, oh, there it is, and you can't take it back. And you just wish after you said it that you hadn't said it or hadn't said it that way or whatever. Well, bad words do bad things. And it's true for everybody. There was a research study done not very many years ago that shows that when a nurse, when she's getting ready to give you a shot, Ruth, now just remember this, when she's getting ready to give you a shot and she says, this may hurt a little bit, immediately triggers the pain response. Hasn't touched yet. Needle hasn't come into your arm. Nothing has happened, but a bomb went off in your head. Bell shock flat, Pavlovian here. And it says, this may hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt. It already hurt. Ouch. I haven't touched you yet. Isn't that something? Just something that simple can communicate something that we really don't want to hear. Bad words do bad things. And I guess you could say, you're going to love this. We should test that one out, research that one. You try that on your patients, will you? Bad words do bad things. Say it with me one more time. Bad words do bad things. Now, here's the challenge that we have, and that is good words and bad words come out of the same mouths. What is up with that? Turn to the book of James. Book of James. And it says there, written by the brother of the Lord, one of the greatest statements written on this. He says in the 3rd chapter of James, no man can tame the tongue. It's an unruly evil full of deadly poison. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the likeness of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. And we all know that problem. We come into church on a Sunday morning, hey, great to see you, big hug, high fives, air fives, whatever. And we're seeing people around, and oh boy, your kids are so cute, I haven't seen them for a few months, man, growing like weeds, and all the positive blather that goes on. And we roll into the sanctuary, and we're praising the Lord, and we're singing, and we're just having this fabulous time. And then church is over, and we go out in the family room and gossip about somebody we were sitting near. Did you see that thing they were wearing? You know, on and on it goes. Or then you go out to dinner and you say your prayer and immediately start chopping each other around the table. And, you know, just a little hit here, a little hit there. Just the stuff that happens to so many of us. We live these very truncated existences. Bipolar, as it were, this way and that way. They're going in two totally different directions. In fact, I've known pastors say, isn't it interesting that the only time I ever hear from those people is when they're ticked off about something. You know, what we fail to realize is our words tell on us. They really are a barometer. They tell about everything that's going on in the inside. Jesus says that. If you look in the book of Luke, in the 6th chapter, the 45th verse, Jesus says, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good. An evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. Wow. My words tell on me. Out of the abundance of my heart, my mouth speaks. When you're saying all this horrible stuff, what it's really telling you is you got a serious heart condition. And you need some radical work that needs to be done on your heart that only the Lord himself is going to be able to do. Either that or what Jesus says here isn't true. In the end, bad talk is just that, bad talk, and it does bad things. If our hearts are right with the Lord, then we're going to do things that honor the Lord. And if they're not right with the Lord, well, we're going to go on the wrong direction. So, how can we change all this? Well, what you want to do is you want to purpose to give your mouth to God so that you can bless with your words. Remember what bless means. We've talked about this many times before. Some of you are new. But to bless means to add to. It means to give life to. It means to enhance. It means to encourage. It means to inspire. It means to lift up. That's exactly what we want to do with our words. And we want to intend purpose in our hearts and our heads to say those things that are going to lift up, to say those things that are going to add to say those things that encourage, and not say those things that are the reverse of that. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. You know the old adage. Well, there's huge truth in that. And that's what he says. You know, pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul, health to the bones. So how do you turn the corner with all that? Well, let me give you 5 tips, and I'll go through them quickly here. The first one is keep your head and your heart in the right place. Everything else flows from this. Keep your head and your heart in the right place. Keep it in the game, God's game. Philippians 4:8, Paul says it so well. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue, if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. You know, keep your head here. I got to tell you, this won't happen if you're constantly drinking from the culture that is around you. Because our culture just gets worse by the day. Anybody else have that sense? Man, oh man, if you listen to the talking heads on television or on radio, they're just mad. They're always mad at somebody. And they're always trying to hype your fear. Oh, man, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if this goes on with the economy? What if this happens in the Middle East? What if? You know, pretty soon you're just freaked out. Well, for good reason. You're marinating in fear. Why would you do that? You know, and so if you just allow that stuff to just constantly pour into you, you have to assume garbage in, garbage out. It can't be otherwise. You know, you've probably heard it said before, and it's absolutely true. I know it's true in terms of health because I coach in health, that you become like the people you hang out with. If you hang out with healthy people, you'll probably be healthy. And if you hang out with unhealthy people, you'll probably be unhealthy. You don't want to do that. And so when you think about your, you know, if you hang out in the media on stuff that's just junk, it's going to have a really negative effect on you. I've talked with people about movies before, about that very area. They said, well, I'm going to go see this movie. I said, well, yeah, but man, I mean, look at the values that are in there. Why do you want to support that? That's not the stuff that's going to build anybody. Well, but this actor is really, who cares? So what? It's a play. It's an act. Come on. This is not real life, and we're living real life. And we want to be on our game, and we want to keep our heads and our hearts in the right place. We live in an exceedingly incendiary culture. Everybody's ticked off about something. And the media absolutely heightens that. And so I don't care whether it's the labor unions or whether it is schools or whether it is the weather, what's going on with global warming or. There are a lot of things that are in play, absolutely. But we can't even have a civil discussion about it. It's got to be a fight. We don't want to go there. Keep your head and your heart in the right place. Keep them right into the Lord and your love for the Lord and your life for the Lord. Remember what Paul said. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Keep your head and heart in the game. Secondly, be slow to speak. Be slow to speak. James says in 1:19, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Anger, passion, indignation, vengeance. And when the flesh is leading, whether it's with our kids or just people out there, that's unfortunately where it ends up. I don't even know if they say this anymore, but when I was a kid, we were always told to count to 10 before we popped off about something. There was actually great wisdom in that. And if you think about it, what happens when somebody says something very negative to you? Your body instantly, physiologically, your entire body responds to that. You go into what is called the flight or fight mode. You just do. And it sort of takes you back to the beginning of mankind. And you are going to do one of two things. You're going to get ready to fight that person, or you're going to literally or figuratively run away. But what happens is your brain very quickly loses the ability to process well, because the things that it needs to process well are going to your extremities because you can fight or run. Therefore, what happens when somebody says something horrible to you? What you really want to do is just take 2 or 3 deep belly breaths. Why is that? Because it allows your brain to engage and to process the way it needs to, and helps you go back to point number 1, head and heart in the game. I belong to the Lord. He's got this. He's got my back. Got my 6 on my side. It's going to be okay. Really, really important to understand that. Be slow to speak. That's one of the problems with social media. People say stuff on social media they would never say face to face. Flaming folks out there just saying horrendous stuff. Just attacking, stuff that goes out there. Wow, really? And you've read the stories, as have I, about people who have taken their lives because they were bullied on one form or another of social media. And it's words. It's all just words. Words are words, whether they leave your fingers or leave your lips. Still words. And words do things. So you want to really think that through before you hit send. Now, autocorrect, that's a whole other deal. We're not even going to go there. Man, I've started to send some stuff at times. What? I didn't say that. Go back. But autocorrect sure did. I think autocorrect is warped, is what I think. The third thing is believe the best of others. Don't suspect the worst. Believe the best. Don't suspect the worst. One of the greatest chapters on love ever written. Paul says, love believes all things. It doesn't assume the wrong things. And so often we do that, don't we? You text somebody about something and no text comes back. What's wrong? Don't they like me? Are they mad at me? Wait a minute. Are they? And you start making up this whole scenario when in fact they dropped their phone in the toilet. How do we know? We don't have any idea, right? But we just create this thing. And it's always a bad thing. Not a good thing, it's a bad thing. Wait a minute, I see that so-and-so called. Why did they call? What do they want to talk about? Maybe they wanted to give you $1 million. How do you know? Right? Love believes all things. So you want to believe the best. You don't want to suspect the worst. I have gotten into trouble more times than I can think when I've allowed myself to get sucked into some drama that somebody told me was going on, which proved not to be true at all. Proverbs has a fabulous statement about this that essentially boils down to this: there's always another side to the story. always. Just assume that. There's always another side to the story, so believe the best, don't suspect the worst. That's Proverbs 18:17, just by the way. First one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him. Okay, if as believers we're going to show the character of Christ, then we really do want to believe the best of each other. Fourth, you want to honor Christ with your words. 1 Corinthians 6, Paul says, "For you were bought at a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's." Back to that Colossians 4:6, "Let your speech always be with grace. What I say reveals my heart and it reveals my character." And I want that to be a really positive thing. I don't want it to be a negative thing. And so I want to make sure that what I say is honoring to the Lord. Finally, point number 5, speak life. In every area you possibly can, do those things, say those things that lift up those around you. I determined here some time ago on my personal Facebook page that every day I was going to put posts on there that were encouraging, that were inspiring, that were motivating. They might be funny, but they're always designed to do something good in people's lives. Why am I doing that? Because that's what I want in people's lives. My little sphere of the world, I can't change the world, but I can work on this little sphere, right? And so can you. And if each of us works on our little spheres, we might change our whole community. Isn't that something? Do I hear an amen? Amen. We can do that. But we have to intend to do that. We have to move forward in that. Okay, I'm in. I'm going to do those things I'm going to say those things in people's lives that build them up. I'm going to find some way that I can do that. I don't know what it is. But God, you're going to need to help me by means of your Spirit. You speak into my heart the thing that I can say that's going to make a difference in somebody's life. And then we go after that. We speak life to people. And you might start that in your family, with your kids or with your parents, with your grandparents, with whoever, your family or extended family is. Find those ways to bless those people. Always look for ways to bless them. Even the little things. You look terrific. I sure appreciate the fact that. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Little things. Rehearse them in your head so that they come out of your mouth. Just roll out. They're just common. There they are. Play games with your little kids so they learn how to do that. Like when Jason was a little bitty guy, the very one I said, "Oh, will he ever talk?" Yeah, wow. Betty played this game with him. We had 3 kids under 2 when Jason was 20 months old. The twins, Jeff and Lisa, were born. And so she was juggling 3 kids, always same time. So she had this game she played with Jason so she could work with the twins. And the game was the visitor's game. Well, it just so happened one day a plumber came over to fix a faucet. And Jason was over there, trying to see what he was doing and blabbering on. And the guy turns to him and said, "And how old are you?" And Jason said, "Oh, I'm almost 2. And the guy laughed, and he said to Betty, he said he's almost 2. He meant 3. And she said, "No, he isn't 2 yet." And the guy said, "What?" Well, what he didn't know was she has this game she plays with him all the time. "Okay, Jason, what street do we live on?" "We live on," and he had this whole thing. "And how old are you?" "I'm almost 2. And I mean, it's just robotic, but there it was. And the guy, "Whoa, this kid can talk." What are you doing? You're playing a game that's going someplace. What are you doing in your head? You're learning how to say positive things. You're learning how to say positive things. When your kids are really little, you help them to understand the importance of positive things so that we build on that in our lives and then let that spill over into your relationships with other people. I was one time over at Macy's getting something, and there was a crowd of people there for whatever reason. This poor gal who was the cashier was just, one person wanted to bring something back and rag on her about something wrong with a product. Well, anyway. And, people wanted to get their stuff done and get out of there, and people were getting a little heated and one thing. And finally, I get up to the counter, and I said to this lady, I just said, wow, I am so impressed by you. You have got the patience of Job. You are just amazing. And tears just started coming down her face. She said, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that. And no, I did not have any idea how much she needed to hear that. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Just simple things. A word fitly spoken is like an apple of gold in a setting of silver. Pleasant words are like honeycomb. They are sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. Folks, you and I can give life every day. The power to do that is right here in our tongues with what we say. So let's be a blessing and speak those pleasant words that do so many amazing things to those around us. Sweetness to the soul, health to the body. Amen? Let's pray.